Concept of legal entity. One of the most frequently used terms in the world of compliance and governance is that of the legal entity. But, what is the meaning of a legal entity, and why is it so important for finance, compliance, legal, and operations? We will try to address all these questions in this lesson. As explained before, commercial groups exist through corporate law. A business is entitled to enter into commercial transactions due to its charter in the legal system. Legal entities could be corporates, partnerships, funds, or government agencies. Units in the legal structure of a group are individual companies that share common ownership and control. In a public group, a company is owned by the public through shares sold on a stock market. In a private group, they are held by a privately held holding company. A legally recognized entity can own and trade assets and employ people, while an entity without legal recognition cannot. When granted these privileges, legal entities are also assigned responsibilities to account for themselves to the public through statutory reporting and external reporting. They must comply with legislation and regulations, and pay various income or transaction taxes. What is a legal entity? To understand the concept of a legal entity, let us understand what are some of the distinctive features of a legal entity. A legal entity is an artificial person having separate legal standing in the eyes of law. A legal entity represents a legal company for which you prepare fiscal or tax reports. A legal entity is any company or organization that has legal rights and responsibilities, including tax filings. It is a business that can enter into contracts either as a vendor or a supplier and can sue or be sued in a court of law. A legal entity can enter into contracts and assume the obligations of those contracts. It can borrow and pay debts, can file suits and be named by other parties in suits, and can be held to account for the results of those lawsuits. Legal entity is also known as GRE, that is government reporting entity. Some of the attributes associated with legal entity around structure, rights and obligations in compliance and accounting are discussed now. Attributes of legal entity around structure starts with the registration of legal entity with authorities. While natural persons acquire legal personality naturally, simply by being born, juridical persons must have legal personality conferred on them by some legal process, and it is for this reason that they are sometimes called artificial persons. Hence, a legal entity is identified through the registration with legal authority. Legal entity possesses separate existence for tax purposes. Legal entities need to pay the taxes and therefore need tax registrations. Tax identifiers and other master entity information gets assigned to legal entity. Legal entities such as parent companies own or control subsidiaries. A large corporation can own many legal entities as its subsidiaries or mix of other legal structures. Rights and obligations of a legal entity. The reason for the term legal person is that some legal persons are not people. Companies and corporations are persons. Legally, they can do most of the things an ordinary person can do, but they are clearly not people in the ordinary sense. A legal entity has the legal capacity to enter into agreements or contracts, assume obligations, incur and pay debts, sue and be sued in its own right, and be held responsible for its actions. Legal entities own the money in bank accounts. While the meaning of a legal entity doesn't technically change across different jurisdictions, the legal entity form and types of legal entity can look different and have varying compliance and governance implications. Trade between legal entities belonging to the same corporate is intercompany and must be supported by adequate legal documentation. Now let us discuss the compliance and accounting perspective of legal entities. Legal entities comply with whatever needs compliance, the legal in the word legal entity. This includes recording all relevant transactions and generating all supporting documents required for financial statements. Legal entities file the accounts and take care of accounting. Legal entity is the organizational unit for financial accounting for which a completely self-contained set of accounts needs to be drawn up for purposes of external reporting. According to the Code of Obligations, all legal entities, such as limited liability companies, public limited companies, cooperatives, associations, and foundations are required to keep complete accounts including a balance sheet and income statement. Hence, accounting books must balance at the legal entity level, meaning the ability to draw a trial balance for the legal entity. This is the legal entity for which you generally prepare a trial balance. Legal entities are structured in a way that allows for a greater degree of protection for strictly personal assets from lawsuits and regulatory penalties. Each type of entity provides a different set of protections and tax burdens. As of now, legal entity codes are not standardized, despite the globalized economic world in which we live. The main reason for that is due to the laws and regulations that govern legal entities fluctuate drastically across jurisdictions.